This next example highlights beat 3 and I'll be playing it in a major context. For today I'll use the key of A major. It goes something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Against A dominant 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. Against A major 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'd like to talk two things about this phrase. The first is, where really do these notes belong to, or where do they come from? Now, if I look at the 7th arpeggios, that is the dominant 7th or the major 7th that I was using as a backing for this phrase, we must really understand first that the quality of these arpeggios is determined by the root, 3rd and 7th. Now, we don't seem to have the 7th in our chromatic phrase. We just have the root and the major 3rd that are part of this phrase and that of the arpeggio. So, we could still say that it belongs to the major arpeggio, which is root, 3rd and 5th. But having said that, in a major arpeggio, we'd like to have all three notes. So we can still comfortably say that this phrase is in the overall major kind of a context, but we really can't pin which arpeggio it belongs to. Now think of it in terms of scales. If I look at the A major scale, then I have, which is Do, Re, Mi. These three notes are there in the phrase, where we have two extra notes in the phrase, that is the minor 2nd and the minor 3rd. So these three notes are actually part of the scale. But come to think of it, aren't these three notes part of so many other major kind of scales? For example, these three notes could belong to the major scale. They could belong to the Mixolydian scale. Or they could belong to the major pentatonic. Or they could belong to, let's say, the Lydian. Or, for that matter of fact, even the 5th mode of the melodic minor. Now, having said that, such a fragment, which really does not give the complete sense of a scale or that of an arpeggio, I would like to term it as a melodic fragment. Now, the second thing that is interesting about this fragment is, are we choosing or are we having a tendency pair at the end? Now, if you look at the beat on the note on the strong beat, which is the major 3rd, now what does this note arrive from? So the note arrives from the previous note, which is minor 3rd. Minor 3rd moves to the major 3rd. Now the minor 3rd in any of the major contexts, for example, we are playing the dominant 7 or the major 7. Now in any of these contexts, the minor 3rd is actually chromatic instead, which means that it is an outside note. So an outside note always, which we'll call it as a chromatic note generally has the tendency to move to its nearest diatonic tone or chordal tone. Now in our case, because we're not trying to peg it to any particular key, so we're not saying it's a major key. So the chordal tone is the major 3rd, the closest chordal tone, and hence this does form a nice tendency pair. The minor 3rd rising up to the chordal tone, major 3rd. This next example highlights beat 3 in a minor context, and I'll play this against two chords. One is A minor 7 and the other A minor major 7. Let's hear it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as we hear the phrase, which goes something like this, I can clearly feel it against the backing chord minor major 7, that we really have all the notes of that arpeggio that really define its quality. In the minor major 7 chord, the notes that define the quality are the root, minor 3rd and the major 7. If you look at our phrase now, A being the root, we have the major 7, we have the minor 3rd here, and we have the root. So these three notes which define the quality, being part of the arpeggio, really makes us feel or makes us think that this phrase is derived from that arpeggio. So let me play the arpeggio, the chord and the phrase.